processing centers, and shrinking. And that's the one place where we can shrink and continue to provide the great service that we need to. The automation footprint will shrink slightly from about 8,500 pieces of automation robotics down to probably about a little over 6,000. Vehicles, a lot of noise lately. We've been out there and very interesting people interested in helping us do vehicles, and I'll leave it at that. But we do need to replace 20-year-old vehicles, and they're they can have antique plates in Virginia and Maryland and places. But I'll tell you what, I had a conversation with Pat Donahoe on this, and he was part of the original team on selecting the LLV at one point. But 20 years ago, he was running a BMF, I think, in Pennsylvania. But he was one of the people advocating for an aluminum body. And the aluminum body is holding up. Now, drivetrains are another thing altogether. But the aluminum body has stood well, and it becomes an iconic symbol of the Postal Service as it rides down the streets. And we're certainly proud of it. It also creates some challenges for us as we deliver more packages. We need a little more space in some of these. So in the process of replacing those, we hope to do something that is very creative in the way of energy, but I think at the same time, it'll also position us for maybe longer street time, I would say, is one way I would describe it, and more delivery challenges. And of course, once again, a lot of employees and delivery points that continue to grow. I used to have a stat on delivery growth, and because last year I think it grew at about 800,000 delivery points, but for a period of time maybe in the last 7 years, we were growing as many as like 2 million delivery points in a year. And that kind of gets lost in 153 million, but at the time it was the state of Ohio. So we added another state of Ohio to our delivery infrastructure, and we got to do it with less hours. So just a challenge that, to put it in context, we still continue to grow the network. And the footprint that we just described supports the throughput of 155 billion packages in mail and 67 billion in revenue. And this slide is all about the fact that rumors of our demise are much exaggerated. I saw something recently, somebody, I'll leave them nameless, they said if it wasn't for shipping, we'd be out of business. And I don't think that's reasonable, because I don't think we'd be out of business. That 155 billion is 4 billion of that is shipping. The other 151 is mail. So mail is an important part of our business and something we're very bullish on, and we think we can take steps to continue to improve. So the former Postmaster General, Pat Donahoe, a couple of years ago, in a tough time, when we really, coming out of the Great Recession, when we really were challenged to have cash to pay bills, we made investments in customer-facing systems. And he was a tremendous leader on that, because at a time when there wasn't money, we were investing in replacing tracking systems and in IT systems and in next-generation devices and sorters. We began that process 3 years ago. So I can stand here today and be pretty far along on what the vision was and what we're trying to do with information, with tracking, to position ourselves so that mail remains relevant going forward. So, he got us focused on building the data and technology platform and to drive future innovations. And back then, it was visibility was something we could all align about. I used to get up in front of postal forums and talk about why. And why was the key question. I don't think when we first launched things like IMV, we didn't really create the compelling vision of what that could do for the industry, what that could do for the Postal Service and for our customers. And at the time, visibility was something we could all align about. So I think the industry, the unions, the Postal Service, that was one place where, though we didn't always grow together, and Lord knows legislation created some barriers, and I think a distraction in some ways, on visibility, we all kind of got together and said it's in the best interest of everyone to have good visibility, good systems, good data, so we can all, continue to improve the experience for mail. And it allowed us to kind of get together in a common place at a time when we weren't necessarily all together. So, the essence of that was to build a data and technology platform, and we, doubled the data we have in really a 2-year period. Once again, that's just like, that's an IT thing. It's my data is bigger than your data kind of moment, which I used to have fun with until we had a cyber event, and then it wasn't funny anymore. When you have all that data, you got to protect all that data, right? So, but we are kind of unique, and we do have almost a million computing devices that we are part of this eco of how we're gathering data and how we want to use data, maybe more importantly. So the plan was to go out there and understand all this tracking that's going on and all the mailing volume. And really, we came up with the term digital reflection, but that's the essence of what we tried to do, is to put a unique license plate on every one of 155 billion pieces, and to track every one of those from the point when it entered our network to the point that it left our network. So from blue mailbox to mailbox, or from a dock and a business mail entry to a mailbox, and capture all that information in between, including, I'm going back to those 4 million miles, breadcrumbs every minute, and once again, we're doing it 10 per second in some studies we're doing right now. So we have the ability to gather as many as 10 breadcrumbs per second on the devices as we're driving down those 4 million miles. That said, doing that at about 7,000 offices at 10 is about a terabyte of data a day. So there's challenges here. I can be very greedy and say, just get all the data, but you do have to manage it. You got to stage it, you got to store it, you got to process it. So there's, we're being a little pragmatic on how we approach this. But the good news, I think, for the industry is there are over 1 billion tracking events a day. There's no one that's anywhere near that kind of tracking events in the mail and shipping industry. As Megan put it in some of her initial comments when she took the job, is we're revolving around visibility, and that's a pivot of sorts, because it was all about getting the visibility, getting the barcodes, and we're pretty high up on those numbers. 97% of packages have a unique identifier, 87% of all commercial mail, all single piece we spray intelligent barcodes on, and we'll have systems to provision that data. But she's pushing us to drive it to the next level and to create higher quality analytics and more information and insights to manage our business with. And that is really, I think, where the opportunity sits for us, because we think analytics can really drive the physical world. And we want to be an information-driven enterprise. I'm an old timer. You heard that in the bio, 40 years, and I started young. But I mean, there are people at the Postal Service that can look at mail on the wall and tell you, at 9 o'clock tonight, I can walk into the plant in Merrifield, not 15 miles from here, and the person that runs the cancellation operation will tell you within 5 minutes by visual when they're going to be down that night canceling mail. And you know that, and that happens in all your own businesses. That's that local knowledge, that long-range expertise. But that goes away over time. We're losing some of that skill over time as an aging workforce. So it's more important that we manage with information. And I want to introduce kind of something I'm going to spend some time on today. It's business value and customer value. And business value is me being greedy. It's all about me. It's all about the Postal Service. It's the information that we're going to use to manage our business. It's important to you because we're doing that to drive costs down. We're using this information to lean our process. We're a lean company, and we are using information in powerful ways and have actively for the last couple of years to improve service, to drive out costs, and improve the processes that we use to manage your products. And then on the other side, on the customer value, it's about world-class service and a world-class experience, and the visibility that we can do to keep mail relevant going forward. So, as we go up this kind of maturity model of analytics, it's been around. I've been using this slide for at least 5 years at this point, because we're everywhere along this, but I can tell you we're starting to creep up towards the prescriptive end. And as we launch IV this year, we're not only going to tell somebody what's in their building and when to turn a machine on, we're also going to tell them when to turn a machine off. That's got a lot of value for us internally. And I think it'll also help us start working with customers to understand when mail goes into the mailbox. So, once again, we're very good at reporting what happened. We got to get very good at predicting what's going to happen and telling people what to do about that, because that skill loss that I referenced on, discussing cancellation before. And once again, earlier and earlier in the process. I mean, right now, one of the biggest challenges, I have all this data. We do have over 1 billion tracking events, but right now, it's taking me 2 days to get you trade data, and bundle data, and hour data, and that has to change. And it really needs to be closer to 2 minutes if that's how you opt to receive the data. On the shipping side, most of our commercial customers get data pushes every 15 minutes. On the mail side, it's going to be kind of customized. How do you want to receive the data? You want to kind of open pipe, we'll send it to you open pipe. If you want to pull it yourself, we'll let you come in and pull it. If you want us to push it to you 4 times a day, 3 times a day, we'll be able to do that. And I think that having a diverse solution was important because it's a diverse audience. When mail and shippers are totally different, file formats and everything else, but totally different on how they want to receive information. So, we've been taking a look at this, and I think that analytics as a foundation really creates something that I use. One of my mantras in the Postal Service with my team is banging on the table, speed to value. We need to move fast on this. Part of that's driven by how old I am. There's a limited runway when you get to 40 years, right? But it's how you get this value out there in a quicker way. I mean, the days of us building IT systems that take 2 years and $100 million are done. I mean, everything we do is agile, and a little different than the rest of Washington, but we're an agile development company, and it's served immediate value for us, because we get things out there, and they might have 10% of the value that's the long-range plan for that system, but there's immediate value. It's only 10%, and you continue to do releases, and I'll talk about a few of those. But I think the challenge here is, how do you take all this data in an integrated industry and share it, move the whole industry, rising tide raising all boats, and once again, and be focused on the customer, be very customer-centric, at the person at the mailbox level. That's what we're all trying to serve. And at the final piece, how do we empower U.S. employees to improve the experience with all this information? So, when you talk about it across channels and industries, I think it creates an interesting opportunity. So if you look at this kind of cycle of buying, it's the awareness. So mail is targeted to get people aware about a product. And then there's that buying, the evaluation and selection. It's more and more going mobile. I've got some statistics recently on smartphone adoption and that kind of tipping point on phones globally. But in the US, it's about 86% right now on smartphones. So, when I sit back and think about how things affect mail, 10 years ago, I'm looking at Alan over there. Alan used to have a plane flying into the mountain. What year was that, Alan?
2001.
Yeah, so that was 14 years ago. We had a slide of mail volume with the plane flying into the mountain. Probably a little graphic, but it was a good metaphor for what the challenge was. And I think that then over time we looked at broadband penetration. That was a really good indicator, leading edge, on what would happen with bill presentment and payment. And I think mobile is another one that also affects some of those numbers. We're tracking that pretty closely. But once again, I get to that whole issue of buying, and it's going to become more and more of a mobile experience. And then delivery. Delivery is changing dramatically, and I'll spend some more time on that. But customers are expecting more and more customized solutions relative to delivery than all of us are traditionally planning to offer, especially us. And we're static routes. So we're leaving at 10 in the morning, we're back at 4. If somebody wants custom design delivery at 2 in the afternoon, that upsets our whole apple cart. But we need to be ready to deal with that upset apple cart and try to change things on the fly in those cases. We think that mail remains an important element because of this. We used to call it the mail moment, but the mailbox is really the center of more and more an omni-channel approach to customers. And whether they're using email or text or search or social, mail can stay very relevant in how customers are being reached. The challenge for us is to keep it relevant more and more digital ways. It's that digital reflection, it's mobile. I'm sure Gary's going to talk about mobilization and how he's using tools to keep mail relevant in a digital way. But I think it's that whole surround sound that takes place around this that we have to keep that person at the mailbox front and center in front of us, and always be thinking about how to improve that experience. How do you keep mail relevant to that receiver versus everyone in the room? Every one of you are different on what you want in the mailbox. And I think as an industry, we have to face that. We have to realize that it's got to be more targeted, more unique to me as an individual. We just talked about that at lunch. We had a good discussion on it. But I think really that's kind of the future for us, using information to become more targeted, using information to be more measurable and better metrics, so you can compete with social media and things of that nature, which are very measurable and very specific. And how do we move from an instinct-driven, information-driven to an information-driven enterprise? And how do you leverage all this data? And this has been the activity that we've been on. It's the right data at the right time to the right people to make the right decisions. And this has been a journey, and we're pretty far along on that. And I talked a little bit about informed visibility, and this is probably as geeky as I'll get as far as getting down into what a system will do, because the opportunity on this system changes how we manage. So for us internally, it moves us to event-driven internal measurement of all mail. We outsource some of that right now. We have a business partner, one of our vendors, that does a great job on this. And they have for over 20 years, but it's time to go from sampling to census on everything. We spray an intelligent license plate on everything coming out of a mailbox. We're going to measure everything coming out of every mailbox, every postcard, every letter will get measured. And what it really gets us to is real-time service performance diagnostics, active every day. Right now, we've done amazing things with service performance diagnostics and service performance measurement tools we built to help operations do a better job with mail. And there's a 48-hour latency on a lot of that. Where this goes away, it becomes minutes instead of hours. So I don't just need to have a cycle time over the last 5 days. I need to have a cycle time that took place in the last 5 hours. And that's a significant change for us. I need to be able to give an MDO in a plant cycle time by the tour that, when they go home at 3 o'clock, their cycle time and their reports are being measured that day so that we can set them up for the next day and understand the differences. There's value in inventory. Mail inventory management is, I envy many of you. I've been in a lot of your buildings. You know what your production schedule is going to be on a given day. I've been in my competitors' buildings. They know exactly what package is on their way. They're not waiting for a truck to hit the door to understand what's inside that truck. We're still in that world. We're getting surprises when we open doors. So all that data is now becoming available so we can actually create inventories and tell people when to turn machines on and turn them off. And understanding really the whole world of end-to-end tracking of all this mail and the value proposition it creates for both us internally, business value, and for customers on the customer side. And what the challenge for us is how do you mobilize this information to our employees? And so, we have supervisors that sit in offices, and we don't want them to sit, chained to a workstation anymore. That everything's got to be on one of these devices. As they're walking around and getting in their car, they're doing street observations, or they're walking the floor in the processing center. I got to be sending everything on a mobile device to them, so it changes. From once again, I'm sitting today with 160,000 desktops and laptops, and 3 years from now, I will guarantee we won't have that many. There's no need for it as you think about how you want to present data to people in a visual way so that you can make decisions. So once again, how do you use all that information to better serve customers? And I think there's an opportunity there. We're a delivery company, but there's still a lot of problems out there in delivery on accuracy and things of that nature. And I think there's an immediate feedback opportunity using information when things aren't happening correctly. We created tools that a postmaster now can get up at 4 in the morning, be having their coffee, and look at their phone and see exactly what their workload is at a route level. Letters, flats, and packages while they're still home, and they can be calling the office telling them, hey, you're already behind on your parcel distribution. You need to do 2,463 parcels today, and you should have done 1,400 by 5 a.m. and you're not there yet. And Big Brother's watching a little bit, and that's okay, because we're giving them tools they want. They're hungry for this information, and it changes how you manage. And there's the package view on it and stuff. The other one is delivery. Delivery for us is a $22 billion cost. And the challenge for us is how do you get better at delivery? We're a delivery company. That's what we are at our essence. Everything else is noise around. We are a delivery company. And we're on those 4 million miles, and we're getting all this data. How do we manage that? How do we use this information to get a little more efficient to better serve customers? And that was something we built out in the last year. How do we use this information to better understand how to do dynamic routes? And we went from no dynamic routes, none, zero, to where this past the Sunday before Christmas, we designed 30,000 routes. And we did it over about a 7-month period. Create some challenges, but once you have the information, it's a challenge you can take on. So we can look at, and we can see carriers, we can do exceptions, we can see when someone is not moving in 15 minutes, we can see they go red. If they're 15 minutes behind schedule, they go. We make them flash if they didn't deliver a package where we thought they should have delivered a package. We don't see a scan when they go past the house. They should have had a scan. We can flash them and reach out to them with a text message and say, hey, you missed a scan on that particular street. So it starts improving the customer experience on this. It also, when you look at the satellite view, we can find when people are maybe taking an unauthorized break and they haven't moved and they're in the McDonald's parking lot and stuff. You can text them and tell them, look, I know you're having coffee, but your break's over. Because in the plant, we have breaks, but after 15 minutes, the break is over. Everybody goes back to their machines and starts working. Where on the street, you can get ahead of some of those. So it gives us an ability to see them a little bit better. And I talked a lot about the dynamic routing and the package pickup opportunities. But I think when you shift it down to a customer level, so all this data, you have all this data, using this information to manage your business a little bit better. How do you use it to improve the delivery experience? And that's where I think that we're in for a sea of change, all of us. And I say that because I know we have traditional competitors and other posts in the room. there's just a ton of change going on how people want to be delivered to. And it's mail, going into mailboxes. I think this whole issue of mode of delivery and cluster boxes that you hear about, and kind of the push in some legislation to make us get away from going to the door, and all that stuff is kind of up in the air right now, because I think that there's value in us doing some of that, but there's also negatives to us doing some of that. You lose that real special relationship with the American household that I think is a differentiator for us in the marketplace. So, once again, as you think about this, consumers' needs are changing. They want to be more personal. They want to have better options. They want to be delivered to when they want to, not necessarily at 4 in the afternoon. We're very close right now to predicting delivery within 1 hour. So this summer, we should have all the work done from an IT perspective with the breadcrumbs and stuff. To actually add that to our tracking event to tell you that we're going to be delivering between 1:30 and 2:30. And that's pretty powerful for how people want to manage their day. But I think that, they want to do all this stuff. They want to be personal, but they also want to be kind of secure at the same time. So, and I think that I didn't want to jump over that final box, but when their expectations aren't met, they tweet about it. And that's kind of not a new phenomenon, but we've had to stand up a social media center in headquarters just to react to those moments, because that can be very damaging to your brand if you ignore those. So, once again, you got to continually change so you're facing on to this customer experience. Now, we've geofenced those 153 million address points, and we've done some work to lock that in, so that now, as we start taking mail down, we're capturing those breadcrumbs every minute, we can confirm delivery of the mailbox. So with most of our barcode technology, you've been getting just last scan. We've been telling you that the last scan was a DPS hit, Operation 919, or FSS hit, or bundle hit, or any one of the machines that was the last time you saw the mail. But now we'll be able to take the mail all the way to the mailbox once if it's been nested properly into our system. So full service IMVs are an important part of this. Packages, obviously. We're using packages each day on our DMS. Every package becomes a managed service point of sorts. We're going out with 100 packages. There's a 6-hour route. Every 6 minutes, we're looking for basically the delivery of that package. It keeps us on tight and allows us to do that predictive delivery. So, but I think from a marketing perspective, if I can tell you that I put that LL Bean catalog in the mailbox, then I know from the printers that they were already managing emails and other contacts to that customer. Do you tell the customer at that time that the catalog is in the mailbox? And if they buy tonight, it's 20% off and free shipping. So that's the whole Omni piece, that knowing exactly when things went in the mailbox or get a little bit of a lift. The other thing that we're looking to do, I talked about filling the truck up, but we're going to a lot of doors each day. We have 31,000 pickup points. From a digital perspective, what else can we do? So we've been doing some work here in Washington on authentication, working with a couple of agencies, so we can authenticate people. That scanner has got an imager, and we have software that can allow us to do a facial image, scan your barcode on your driver's license, and also lock in launch latitude. You say you live at 123 Main Street, Washington, D.C., and I'm on the porch at 123 Main Street, locking in that information, validating who you are and where you say you live. And there's a need for that out there in the marketplace. There are White House directives right now to get to more of a centralized, uniform, one access point into systems here for citizens, not just workers in Washington, but for citizens to be able to have one access point to IRS and Social Security and wherever else, VA if they need to. So it creates some nice opportunities. And Gary's, I don't want to steal Gary's thunder. I know he's going to talk about some apps later and stuff, but I think the progress, beginning with QR codes and really moving up into augmented reality, is a nice way to digitize mail. And I think it's an important element of what we've been trying to do. Once again, it's starting to create that linkage between the physical and digital. And customized delivery. I stood up in front of a room full of postal executives right around this time last year and predicted to them that we'd be delivering food and dry cleaners this year. I was 50% right. We haven't done any dry cleaning delivery. We are delivering food now in 4 cities. And starting at like 4 in the morning, we're back at 8, we turn the truck back over to the regular carrier and we go about our day. And so once again, customers' needs are changing dramatically, and we have to change to meet those needs. And I give our in particular, our NALC a lot of credit, because they met us halfway on this, and with an ability to use flexible employees to lower that price point. So once again, that's when I told there's a couple of places that were really rowing together on this. So, and then Metro Post, it gets a lot of heat because of cross coverage issues. But I've been around. I met with Webvan and Cosmo way back when. That's that 40-year part of the bio. I was around during those periods, and we talked to a lot of people, and that was a phenomenon there at the turn of the century. It feels good to say that. But it really was. But it was a good idea before its time, right? But now there's more. But it's not just us. It's it's Uber is doing delivery. Lyft wants to do it. It's what's the late one? Roadie. We're going to be at Waffle House and we're going to swap parcels. And so that might be 1% of the marketplace right now. But it's the 1% that we all worry about because we don't understand the phenomenon, how this whole crowdsourcing and delivery affects our business models, right? So, but once again, the Metro Post is a good case and a testing point. That's the first place we did dynamic delivery. We stood it up. It was on a shoebox and a PC. We were designing routes using commercial available software, but it turned into the ability to do 30,000 on a Sunday the week before Christmas this year. It kept us from getting bogged down and kept customers' product moving. So there's value in these tests. It's test it and fail and fail fast, but test it, right? Keep going out and doing different things, and that's a change in our culture. I might get Gary and his team is. He's got innovation in his title. I don't know what your title is, Gary. It's innovation, right? So, but we're testing different things, and we should continue to test different things. And you might find one that there's a pony in there somewhere after you cut through all the stuff. You know how that works. So finally, Sunday delivery. That's another one that is ended up being a pretty sound success. And in that case, we're learning a lot about that. That gave us our lab for Sunday delivery. Now, there's been noise about 5-day mail and 6-day package. If that ever happens, I'm not. If legislation ever happens, I'm not going there, right? So, but if that ever happens, where we're tasked with delivering, packages on a Saturday, we will be ready to do it from the experience we garnered doing Sunday delivery. We'll just scale up. So, and then finally, this whole world of we spent a lot of time talking about the digital world around us, but it's that bridging the physical and digital that creates the real opportunity for us. And we kind of stood up. It's a busy chart, but I think the key issue is right in the middle. We built an analytics platform. We built a data platform that's pretty robust. In the process of finishing that out in IB, we already have the packages in there. We have something called TRP that we're using right now to scan a package in Hawaii and come back with a carry-around response. And the data we got from you. So this is the moment of the presentation where I thank you, because if you're in the industry, we could not be doing the things we're doing without your help. Whether it was, I remember some ugly conversations, not ugly, but some pointed conversations way back when, where we talked about the fact that we need you to give us a street address in every file. And we need you to give us, and you got to send us that file right away. You got to give us the file before you send us packages. And the same on mail. And the software, investments that many of you had to make to help us facilitate this. But now we're at a point where we can leverage the data. Now we have the information, and I think what the final piece of this is what's in the middle there is IB. We'll really start sending this data out in a much more robust, real-time way, so that we can continue moving forward and keep mail relevant in this increasingly digital age. And the challenge for us was not a simple one, and it was. There's 3 Bs, 4 Bs when you look at these different issues. But for us, I would have loved to have a greenfield start to this thing. But I already talked about 6,000 different applications that we have, and someone says, "What is your foundation for your analytics?" And, it's all of the above. We're running, we run one system over on the HR side. We're an SAP client, and on the operations, we're running SaaS, and we're using different things from HP. We're using Splunk on the security side. So we almost had to stand up a solution for every possible scenario that could be thrown at us. And I'll tell you, the challenge is one of to find real time. And financial data, it's what happened yesterday, what happened last week. It's 10Ks, 10Qs. That's all fine. Joe was happy with me telling him what happened, last week. But as I work my way across there, marketing wants information in more and more in hours, and customers want it in minutes. So when we built our package tracking system, we set a goal that we wanted to be able to scan a package on the porch. You can walk into the kitchen, go into that jump drawer where the scissors are, cut the package open, and your phone is buzzing on the counter. We're not quite there. We still have a little more work to do, but we're hitting 3 minutes consistently from the scan that takes place to posting it on our website and being able to text that back to to a customer, which a year ago we weren't even texting to customers. So there's been a lot of progress on this. And then finally, in operations, it starts getting into milliseconds. We're scanning a parcel in Guam, and it's going all the way to Minnesota and back in 20 milliseconds, saying that it's carrier route 7, sequence 45. And once again, that is the power, and I think the challenge of data. So, you have to serve a lot of different needs on data. Sometimes it has to be milliseconds, and sometimes it's okay to report what happened last week. And you build accordingly, because that all has to cost. When you say you want to turn things around in 20 milliseconds, you better just add an extra dollar sign to what you're bringing up, because it just creates a few more challenges. And I think together we're getting to a point now where we know that 2 days doesn't work, and we're hoping that 20 minutes works, and we'll work our way down at least on some of the mail movement, and whether it's trays and pallets and bundles that I talked about before. And of course, in the middle of all this, I had a fun about 60 days in my life that I'd like to forget. I have a couple more gray hairs, but we had a cyber event, and you can't. So I will say that back then it's not if, it's when, and now it's more, it's either you know or you don't know. And that's serious, and that's real, and that's nation state, and it's not people knocking on your door to see if they can get in. And so traditional firewall technology does not help you in this environment. That said, you got to take steps to, if they do get in, you know they're there, and you take steps to minimize the danger, mitigate the dangers, and the actions that they can take. So I don't think we're alone in that, but you have my commitment that we are doing everything humanly possible, but I would say to limits of all best available technology. And we're working with, obviously, people here in Washington that are on the front end a lot of that to provide the safe and secure environment for this data that is necessary for us all to continue to move forward. So anyway, just to wrap it up, it's about bridging this whole physical and digital and keeping mail relevant in an increasingly digital age. And it's not just about us. It's customers and it's companies. It's the customer at the mailbox, it's the company that's the mail presenter or the shipper, and it's the industry around us. I think we can all benefit from this in this world of being an empowered and engaged opportunities. On the top left ribbon, increase revenue, that's one of our goals. We're using this information to increase revenue. I had this conversation this morning. We would not have had the growth curve we've had on packages if we hadn't fixed the tracking. I was on enough sales calls when people said, look, I'm not giving you a $700 iPhone and not knowing you delivered it for 5 hours. I mean, that's not enough. I need it to be 5 minutes, not 5 hours. We had to make those fixes, and we had to invest pretty heavily in systems to help us fix things. But it also allows us to drive costs down. That's always important. We're laser focused on driving costs down, and I think that street management and delivery is another opportunity for us to kind of do things that we've leaned in mail processing in our plant environment. We're now bringing lean to delivery and operations in post office, and frankly, putting technology in there. There's enough volume being entered by many of you at post offices that we had to put technology in every post office in the country so that we can scan barcodes and get response. And now we're putting sorters in there. Literally, if we have the space, we're putting some parcel and bundle sorters in, because bundles is still an active part of our challenge on any given day. And then at the other end is service. We're a service company, and it always is about service. And we have to do it at world-class levels because the marketplace around us demands that. Whether it's on the shipping side where we have world-class competitors, or it's on the mail side where you have digital competitors that are very measurable and very specific. And then finally, the experience is I think, one of our final frontiers. We still need to get better, whether somebody interacts with our employees on the street, or in a post office, or in our call center. That's a final frontier from us. And we're using data to kind of fix that stuff. So with that, I thank you for your time. I hope this was kind of relevant in the rest of the conversations you're having today. John, thank you for having me, and I know you have a kind of tight door. I hope I didn't go over too much on you. But I probably timed that so I didn't have to take too many questions. No.
We have gone a little bit over, but I think it's well worth it. And I do want to offer an opportunity. If somebody wants to ask one question. No, okay. Will you say what it's over?
I have a couple of meetings actually for the next hour, so I'll be looking around for an hour. Somebody really needs something to tell me What a great presentation that was. I'll be here, but I have a complaint. See Gary. It's not usually working.
With the Gary we're referring to is Gary Redmond will be with us in the next session. So that's fantastic. And absolutely really, really energizes everything we've been already talking about and gives us a lot of confidence. Right? So let's go next door and we're going to get further input. Thank you.